Oh yeah. Yeah. Yes, Gixxer.
Alright guys, let me tell you, this Ducati V2 is obviously not as cool as the Gixxer 250 video you clicked on, but this design might be just as good as the Gixxer 250. Look how sweet this thing looks. We had it specially made just for this giveaway. Hit the link down below. Only 48 hours left to get this piece of merch. It will not be available after that time. You get 3x entries to win this motorcycle. Check it out, the link below.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the most special of special Yammie Noob episodes. Today, we are doing a first ride review on this, the GSX 250R. Now, if you guys saw the reveal video of this thing, you already know what the deal is and why it looks already so wretched. This motorcycle was purchased for the year 2021 here at Yammie Noob, so that we had a little bit of a mule bike, a shop bike to dick around with and do fun stuff with, and so that's what this thing is. It is not a giveaway bike. It is not a rental bike. I purchased this motorcycle explicitly to do terrible things to it, which we have already done now. As you can see, this bike has been through a lot of off-road abuse. So why did I buy this thing? I just wanted to have fun this year. I have often lambasted the GSX 250R as the very worst beginner bike of all time, basically. It's heavy, it's slow, it is not that great ostensibly. It's got this old school cradle frame on it. It's not modern. It's just not a great motorcycle, right? Well, I thought, well, you know what? Let me put my money where my mouth is. Let me get one of these bikes and just see what they're all about. So what are we working with here? This GSX 250R is motivated by Suzuki's 249cc parallel twin, makes about 24 horsepower, which for a lot of you guys, you're probably familiar with the Ninja 400s of the world, making damn near double that amount of power. It also features a mud flap, which actually came in handy for us. Yeah, you can see the shock is nice and clean and no mud got on that shock. So good job, Suzuki, for putting a mud flap. You guys knew what we were going to do with it. I have removed the muffler on it because it sounded like a scooter and it needed to be a little louder, and it doesn't really matter. We also took the front fender off because where this thing is going, it's not going to need it. So this motorcycle is Suzuki's answer to the Ninja 400, the R3, those small displacement sport bikes, but they came to the party kind of late and with a small engine and with this heavy frame. So a lot of people were like, well, why the hell does this bike even exist? Why did Suzuki make such an atrocity? And I actually have an interesting opinion on this thing. You know, I think that if you are looking for the most simple and approachable motorcycle that is full-sized, you can't really do much better than this thing. So let's swing a leg over this thing. Let's talk about it today, and let's have some fun, shall we, with the simple little Gixxer 250. Now, as you guys can tell, one of the important mods I already did to this thing was I put a little "don't worry" sticker over the speedometer, because you really don't need to worry with the Gixxer 250. You're probably not speeding, and it's probably very tough to speed as well. First thing I want to mention here is the ergonomics package on this bike. You sit atop this thing, it is very amenable. I think riders of a lot of different statures and sizes could fit fairly well in this thing. It's got a low seat height. I'm about 5'11", and I got a bend in my legs right here, so pretty approachable seat height on this little machine. And honestly, the fit and finish is really not that bad for how cheap this bike is. This motorcycle MSRP is like $4,300 or $4,400. I actually paid about $4,100 out the door for this thing, which is a pretty stonking good deal. I got it from the folks over at Ride Now Austin, which was pretty awesome. And yeah, let's turn this thing on and hear the almighty power of this machine. If you're telling yourself, well, Yammie, that just sounds like an R3, you'd be right. Except it's just not as hopped up. Another thing I like is the brake feel on this bike. I think it's got a good lever. It's got adjustable lever right here, which is cool. Clutch feels great. Again, the number one thing about this bike is how ridiculously easy it is to ride. I've literally never had a motorcycle that is so simple to ride. This is the most beginner-friendly, appropriate thing I've ever... I mean, you can't screw it up on this thing, right? Like, I'll demonstrate to you guys, right? I'll get it started here in first gear. Just goofing around the parking lot. So again, it's a full-size motorcycle. It's not a Grom or anything like that. But, you know, I can just... I mean, first gear, it's not really doing much. It's bucking and bobbing a little bit, but before you even get to that point, it's going to definitely let you know that it's not happy with what you're doing, but it does so in a way that is really easy to manage. So you can also see here that it will do burnouts very easily. So if you are about that squid life, you can definitely get this thing to do some sweet burnouts. This thing's awesome. The thing about the Gixxer is it's just low stakes fun, and I get it, not everyone's gonna buy a 250 like I did literally just to have it live a horrible life, but you know, I could definitely see somebody owning this bike and not caring that much about what happens to it. Its wheelie potential is quite low, requires a lot of input to even get the front wheel up. I definitely have to work on my technique a little bit. You definitely can't just throttle it up and expect a wheelie to happen on this thing. You got to work for it a little bit more. And the really cool thing about the Gixxer, as we've proven in our video, is it has the ability to go off-road. You can really just yeet this little sucker wherever you want, and it'll go where you need it to go. It's pretty awesome. You don't see that often in the beginner bike category. You can really climb whatever you need to climb with this thing, and it's not going to be very difficult, you know? So really, the thing I want to stress to you is how simple it is to ride this thing. It's so low stakes. It is quite possibly the perfect learning tool for anyone looking to get started with motorcycling. And it's dirt cheap too. And to be honest, unless you're talking about a Ninja 400 or something like that, these little bikes kind of all feel the same. Yes, the 250 is a little down on power versus something like the R3 or the Ninja 400, but that's really not a huge deterrent in my mind to this motorcycle. And you can kind of ride it in this fun way where you're constantly just wide open throttle, and you make it almost feel like a little race bike or something. It's so goofy. The important thing when you're on it is to not worry about your top speed, not worry about what's going on. All you really need is your gas gauge over here, which this thing is extraordinarily fuel efficient, so that's quite nice. You can have a motorcycle you can just plug the miles away on. So in all seriousness, the cool thing about the Gixxer is the fit and finish. Honestly, this bike feels really awesome. If Suzuki had put a slightly bigger engine in this, it could have definitely competed with the Ninja 400, but right now it just doesn't stand a snowball's chance in hell of doing anything against the Ninja 400. But to be honest, the brakes here feel just about as good as the Ninja 400. I actually really like the throttle feel on this motorcycle. On-off throttle is surprisingly good for a bike of this class. You go on here, on, and then pretty nice. And it doesn't have a super long throttle tube like a lot of beginner bikes have. It's got a pretty normal throttle tube. You can tell that. So kind of a nice feature on the Gixxer. You know, it doesn't have a super ridiculous throttle tube that's super beginner designed. The nice thing about these is that it's really the engine that is the limiting factor here for beginners. It's not going to allow you to get into trouble because it's making like 20 wheel horsepower or something. I think this thing does 0 to 60 in like 9 seconds or something like that. We actually raced it against my Nissan Frontier, which is the work truck that I use for Yammie Noob, and I mean the Frontier just smoked it. So if a mid-sized truck can smoke this motorcycle, I mean, it's got to be one of the safest things to ride around. It's really pretty chill to just do your thing on it. Again, it would be difficult to have anyone be afraid of this thing. It is so mellow, so easygoing, and that to me is kind of one of the benefits of it. Honestly, yeah, the engine doesn't make that much power, but truthfully, it still feels pretty good. And that's the takeaway I want to give to you guys, is that, you know, motorcycles, they're all, if you got an engine and you got 2 wheels, that is better than walking, and it's going to be pretty fun. It's going to be pretty fun. If you know how to have fun with a motorcycle, any bike can be a good time. And that's what's kind of cool about them, right? I often say that motorcycles are like dogs. There's really no bad dog. I mean, sure, there's bad dogs, but they're all good boys in their own ways, you know? They're just out to have a good time and to have fun, and that's what motorcycles are too. As we see here on initial flicking, the weight of the Gixxer becomes very apparent. There's that power. On the rev limiter. Going up, baby. So yeah, the weight of this motorcycle is something you can't really escape. It is a heavier bike than a Ninja 400 or something like that. And so the initial flick-in, especially on these Continentals, is not what you would expect. But it's not bad though. It'll do what it needs to do. So we're here in 6th gear on the highway. We're keeping up with everybody just fine. I think a lot of folks, you know, like to say that a 250 can't possibly keep up on the highway, but I'm passing people over here. There's really no problem at all. Might have to use the slipstream on this Tundra to get max lean and max, you know, acceleration, but you know, it's definitely happy to. I mean, I'm trundling along. I'm keeping up with traffic. I'm right in here with everybody. So this bike is doing just fine when it comes to that. And I think that's a big thing that people worry about in these motorcycles in the US market. They worry that they're not going to be able to keep up on the highway. And yes, are you going to super skywalk cars on the highway? No, you're probably not, but you can commute on the highway on this machine if you are probably under 200 pounds. Spike was on this bike whenever we were doing our kind of initial ride and reveal of it, and he said that on the highway he was struggling going up hills, but he is I think 230 pounds or something like that, so that's going to limit the bike's performance substantially because it doesn't have that much horsepower to just kind of keep it rolling and keep it going. But here I am in 6th gear, you know, I'm wide open, and I'm definitely catching up to this Tundra over here, and I'm about to pass him. And there we go, past him. I didn't even have to drop a gear. It took a little bit, but I was able to do it. But yeah, we're gonna have a lot of fun with this little small Hayabusa thing. To be honest, like I said, I just wanted to really put my money where my mouth was when it came to the Suzuki GSX 250. I wanted something stupid, I wanted something goofy, and I feel like I got it. Again, I would literally never purchase this motorcycle for myself. I only bought this bike to have fun with on the channel. This is not like a personal bike that I want to own. I just want to make that clear to everybody. But, you know, it's just really proving to me that motorcycles are so much more than their spec sheets, and you can have fun with damn near any bike if you really want to. If you don't get in your own head about it, if you don't get in the head about the specs and, oh, it only makes this amount of power, it weighs this much, just ride a bike. Ride a bike and see how you feel about it, see what you think about it, and that's really going to tell you what you need to know as opposed to just stressing about the numbers of a motorcycle. So let's see here on this U-turn, we're approaching down a couple gears. Absolute performance monster that this is. Go all the way wide to the apex. Oh yeah, get this urban athlete of a motorcycle. Kind of ridiculous that in Europe you A1 boys are not even allowed to ride something like this, because I feel like a toddler could ride this motorcycle. It's so easy going, but yeah, maybe that's just my own bias when it comes to this. So let's do this now. We're going to cruise a little bit with the Gixxer 250, get it out on a twistier set of roads, and see how it feels. Let's go and do that. Alrighty guys, we're now heading into a twistier section of road up here in the hills that we can test the little 250 on a little bit. And to be honest, one of the big limitations of this bike is the tires that it's on. It's on these weird Continental Sport Attack or whatever. I don't even know what the hell these are called, but they're generally not very good. They don't provide good feedback or feel, but the chassis itself is relatively competent. I'm having to overlook some of the qualities of the tire, but honestly this bike is performing very admirably on the side of the tire here. Suspension is stiff, it's planted, it's working really well. I don't have any complaints so far. Going a little slower than I'd like, but that's okay. get to ping it off the limiter going like 40 miles per hour. And again, if you want a tool that's going to teach you everything and literally the lowest risk possible, maybe a 250 is the right bike for you. You know, I think it's kind of a detriment to motorcycles whenever we say that they're, oh, you're going to outgrow it or you won't last 6 months on a 250. I mean, if you're committed to actually learning the craft of riding, a 250 will do you just fine. It's not always about going as blisteringly fast as possible, which obviously a lot of us who ride motorcycles, that's what we want out of a bike, right? We want something that is going to feel, you know, fast and committed and is, you know, sexy and all that. And yeah, maybe the Gixxer 250 isn't the sexiest or fastest thing in the world. It's a bit of a nerd bike, but hey, it's doing the job though. You know, if you find a used one of these for like $3 grand, they're basically unkillable. It's just a little liquid-cooled parallel twin from Suzuki. You really can't go wrong with something like this. And honestly, this bike's suspension setup and the way it flicks into corners, I prefer it over the CBR 500R. I know that's probably an unpopular opinion and everyone's going to tell me, oh, Yammie doesn't know what he's talking about. He likes the Gixxer 250 over the CBR 500R. But I genuinely do. This motorcycle is a little bit lighter than the 500. It revs out a little bit more. It feels a little bit more motorsports and sport bike to me than the 500. The 500, like, it tops out at like 8,500 RPM or something like that. Like it's a cruiser. I just can't get behind that. So yeah, honestly, I like this bike more than the 500, to be honest. It just feels sillier. Gixxer 250, baby. Getting up here on this QX80. Can't hang, bro. There's no way you can hang on the 250. This is the best bike. I'm just kidding. It is not the best bike. But maybe it's the best bike for you. That's what I want y'all to take away from this. Maybe a 250 is not the greatest motorcycle ever. I think we can all say that for sure. But maybe if you're the type of person that wants something from Suzuki, wants something with good fit and finish, you want something that is incapable of scaring you. I think that's what I'll say about this 250. There's just no way it can frighten you, right? Like I'll drop it here to second gear and I'm having to work really hard to get up to speed even. I mean, I banged through 2 gears there and I didn't even reach this QX80. And honestly, I really like the way this bike feels on the side of the tire. It feels really good going from side to side. The chassis works pretty well. The frame isn't so bad. I don't find any weirdness in it. It's surprisingly stiff from the factory. The brake feel is honestly better than some other beginner bikes. This is about as good as a Ninja 400 brakes, and to be honest, I've often said that that's my favorite of the little bike brakes. I think it works really, really well, and this bike is no different. I really like the brakes on this thing. It's got a lot of feel to the lever, good stopping power, and it's adjustable too. Come on. Can you ask for, do you need more than that? Do you need to hammer in any more than that? I don't think so. Yeah, it soaks up bumps pretty well. It's not a bad motorcycle. I think that's what trips people up a lot about whenever we talk about the Gixxer 250 and we just look at it from a spec sheet perspective and we say this is a bad motorcycle. You cannot just look at the specs of a bike and say that it's good or bad. That's why, you know, for example, like I think a lot of people are upset at me that I say that the Triumph 660, the Trident, is going to be a great bike because they're like, oh, Yammie, you haven't ridden it yet. How could you say that? But I can say that because a lot of people I trust have ridden it and told me that it's good. So it's just one of those things. Let's make sure we beat this truck. The 250 kind of reminds me of being a kid again on a motorcycle. I don't know. It's such like a simple pleasure with it. Into third there. Oh, I can't believe how slow it is. Come on! Yes! I can't wait to take this thing to the track. See if I can beat my RC390's time at Harris Hill. I don't think I will, and there's no way in hell I'm gonna come even close to my race bike's time, but it's gonna be a lot of fun doing it because it literally doesn't matter what happens to this thing. That's why, you know, maybe this motorcycle, not this specific one, but a bike like this, it might be a DRZ 400 to you, it might be a CBR 250R project bike or something like that. I think everybody needs a motorcycle that they don't really care about that much, because that's the bike that you're gonna have the most fun with. That's the one that's gonna teach you everything about riding. That's the one that you're eventually gonna fall in love with, and that's the one that will stick with you in your mind. And little bikes tend to do that because they are so low stakes, right? Like you can just, I'm sitting here hanging kind of off the side of the saddle here, just goosing the throttle. I feel like I'm on a bicycle. I'm just goofing around with this thing. And it's the simple pleasure of having fun on two wheels that is what gets us about motorcycles. It is not the power necessarily. It's not the specs. It's not the pedigree. That stuff is cool and it's fun. But I don't know, man. This bike is going to be a ton of fun, mostly because I get to do whatever the hell I want to it. And, you know, through our Discord members, we'll be able to do something fun with it. Yeah, it'd be nice if you didn't go, wouldn't it? And honestly, guys, the Gixxer, you know what? It can go off-road. Anything can go off-road if you believe enough. You see this here? You see the way it just crests over this stuff? No problem, man. Do I feel like my life is in my hands a little bit? Maybe, but Gixxer 250, bro. This is what it's about right here. It's about leaning over the bike, hanging on for dear life. Smashing it down into second because you really want all the power you can get. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yes, Gixxer. Gixxer 250 just does it all, dude. Just have adventures with your motorcycle, guys. Just have fun with them. Life's short. Just do dumb stuff. And the ergonomics could definitely be better for standing, but hey, I am not criticizing the Gixxer 250, okay? There's no way I could criticize this bike. Look at it go, dude. Look at this. Yes. Anything's a scrambler. Just believe. To be honest, I'm kind of surprised at how it just soaks everything up. It's honestly not that bad. The ergonomics just need a ton of help. Doesn't even have ABS from the factory, so you can do all your off-road shenanigans. Alright guys, that's going to wrap it up for today. Hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, smash the subscribe button. We're trying to get to 1 million subscribers so I can turbo my Hayabusa. Catch you guys in the next one. See you later.
You've made it to the end of another Yammie Noob video. Aren't you a special cookie? Well, I'll tell you what, I got a gift for you. Click this right over here. You keep watching yourself some of my videos. Got some cool ones in there, got some memes, got some awesome content. I don't like the way this one's feeling. I'm gonna try it again.